welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist virtual worship service, where we continue in community wherever we are, which in this case is my living room. So good to see you all virtually here today. So Community Church Unitarian Universalist, we are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are in a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. So I would like you to know that directly after this service, our Time for All Ages with our incredible Director of Religious Education, Cynthia Ramirez, will be on this Facebook page. She will do a story and a craft with people of all ages. So please tune in whether you're 5 or 95. At 12:30 p.m., we're going to be having our virtual coffee hour, which is hosted by CCUU President Dion DeVille. Join us for shared community. So members and friends should have received a Zoom invite in your weekly Community Matters newsletter. However, we'll also have it on this Facebook page where you can click to get into Zoom as well. So speaking of Zoom, we had a tutorial in this last week, and y'all are welcome to email our office at ccuunola.org. That's office at ccuunola.org in order to get a copy of this tutorial. But we just say, try it out. Try out Zoom. They have a bunch of videos online and see what you think, because we are going to start to be transitioning to Zoom over the next few weeks. Now, if you're a Facebook watcher, we will post the Zoom link to Facebook, so all are welcome. So next week, CCUU member Laura Miller will be at our pulpit with an amazing sermon. I will be the worship associate, and we're going to be using Zoom for the service. So we're going to post the invite in Community Matters on Friday, as well as this Facebook page on some Sunday morning. So we hope you can come join us, and it'll be exciting because you'll get to see each other's faces as well. Speaking of the Community Matters newsletter, you can sign up further down on this page or on our website, www.ccuunola.org, for weekly updates from our church, as well as ways to help and find help in this time, and links for cultural, intellectual, and spiritual connections, virtual of course. And now we will have some more in our joys and sorrows, but I am delighted to announce that CCUU member Astrid Kammerling and her husband Mike Fodor celebrated the birth of their son, Emerson Willow Fodor, on April 14th. That was last Sunday. So please check our Community Matters this week to see how you can support this wonderful family at this time. And with that, we will begin our worship. So as we do each week in our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we light our chalice, which is a symbol of our faith and the light that we bring. And we always have a youth or young adult leader light our chalice, and at least for the last month, come on buddy, at least for the last month, our youth and young adult leader in our house, perhaps for some of you, yours too, has been our son Sebastian, our son. And so, let us light this chalice. You want to come on up here, buddy? Hold on.
Mama.
Yep. We're going to light the chalice.
Mama.
And we're going to sing our chalice lighting. And some of you may know the words from home. Bennett will be singing our chalice lighting now.
We light the flame to offer the light of truth and knowledge and the warmth of love and community.
So now is the time in our service that I feel over the past few weeks has become increasingly important. It is the space we make for all the joys that we have this week, virtual or in person, all the ways that joy is continuing to spring up in this time, so that we may share it with this community, because your joy is our joy. It's also a time for us to share our deepest sorrows, the sorrows that we do not want to have to hold alone. And we know that by naming them, that might not ease them completely, but there is a way to know that we are loved and we are held in a community when we lift up our sorrows. So in this time, I ask that as you feel able and comfortable, to please share your joys and sorrows in the comments on our Facebook page right now. We will play hymn 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty, to give individuals time to write out their Facebook comments. Then I will read them aloud as we light our candles of joy and sorrow. Our first sorrow today is from Will Hunn. My sister and only sibling lost her year-long battle with pancreatic cancer this week. I will miss her dearly, and the world will not be the same without her. Rochelle writes that being with y'all here is pure joy. We are so glad to see you as well. Marilyn Malone is thankful that it finally rained. There are many affirmations of love for Will and others as well on this page, which has me considering lighting a candle, which I will, for a joy of community, even in times of sorrow. Cynthia Ramirez lost a colleague and student from SUNO last week to COVID-19. Stephanie Boss is grateful for the service this morning. We are so grateful that you are here. A sorrow from Karen Gibb Connor is that there are 22 sick residents and 8 have died, 16 sick team members. A joy for her is that we have a golden opportunity to change the national perception and narrative about nursing homes. Very true. Naomi Hill, good to see you, is grateful for family, friends, and our fur baby, Treme. Liz Trotter is asking for strength and sending gratitude for this loving community. I light these candles for all the joys, expressed and unexpressed. Perhaps some of them just blooming at this time, and some joys we didn't know necessarily would be joys a few months ago, but certainly are now. The joys of seeing each other virtually in community, of being here for each other, and the small ways that we might be able to make change in the future. And I also light a candle for all the sorrows, for the incredible loss that many of us are experiencing at this time, and for all the ways that we're losing little things. May we know that even in this loss, we are held by love and this community. We will now have 1 minute of silence for our joys and our sorrows. Before I begin our reading today, I realize I have a few more joys that I'd like to share with this community. There were several people who had their annual trip around the sun, their birthdays, in our community this week, and I'd like to just lift them up. I'm sorry if I didn't hear about your birthday, but these particular individuals are CCUU President Dion DeVille, longtime CCUU members Ruth Oliveira and Avis Moore, who celebrated their 95th and 93rd birthdays. We wish them continued health and joy in this time. Our first reading is Liberation Just Below the Surface by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Someone has to be the one to go first. When the seas are stubborn and the ground and the sky are giving us only gray and gloom, someone has to see the spring that's just below the surface. The crocus about to launch, the green in the brown grass, the path that's about to be made clear, the freedom that's calling. After the leap, the leaving behind, the letting go of everything you ever knew and anything it meant to live. It takes a reckless sort of dreaming, a courage you'd usually shrug off like it belonged to old tales of escape from Egypt or emperors, like it belonged to someone more powerful, more official, someone less filled up with grocery lists and bills to pay, marriages to manage, and all these justice reports to read. We come to link arms and to claim a call that is collective, believing we can go together and hold each other into the deep in this journey for justice and liberation, trusting we can sing not just at the end, but the whole way there, feeling in our bodies this promise of something more beautiful being born. We come to remind each other we were always this brave, that we've had all we need to walk this way the whole time, that we are the ones we've been waiting for to say to each other, let's begin now. So in this faith community, we are a self-sustaining congregation, meaning that we do this work of justice and outreach and pastoral care, and hopefully hope and joy and love at our best. We do this through each other. We are the church. So financially and in our time and in what we do in the world, that is how we are supported at Community Church Unitarian Universalist, by us. The members' and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. So at this time, we ask that you consider giving. You can give online at ccunola.org/stewardship, or, newfangled, by text at 504-370-2659. Text GIVE to be prompted to make your donation. If you would like to send a check to CCUU, you can at 6690 Fleur de Lis Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70124. That is the address of our church, where one day when it is safe, we will gather together again. So at this time, we thank you for your generosity as we listen to our beautiful offertory. Our next reading is from a Haggadah used at Temple Sinai, New Orleans. We will be talking more about the Seder meal today. Our rabbis taught, God is urgent about justice, for upon justice the world depends. Each drop of wine we pour is hope and prayer, that people will cast out the plagues that threaten everyone, everywhere they are found, beginning in our own hearts. the making of war, the teaching of hate and violence, the spoliation of the earth, perversion of justice and of government, fomenting of vice and crime, neglect of human needs, oppression of nations and peoples, corruption of culture, subjugation of science, learning, and human discourse, the erosion of freedoms. We pour 10 drops for the plagues upon Egypt. So, freedom's a tricky word, isn't it? Like religion and pornography, as the saying goes, we may not be able to define it, but we know it when we see it. And here's what we see today. At this moment, many of us are bound to our homes, if we are lucky enough to have homes, without the physical freedom we are used to enjoying. So there are those that say that freedom is to do what I want, when I want, and how I want. That's the American way. And we can see some of these folks in our news feeds over the last week, protesting, maskless, some armed, outside state houses in defiance of stay-at-home orders for the coronavirus. And though I may not agree with their tactics or outlook, that strain of individualistic freedom is as deeply American as the community spirit we see in those staying at home for the good of the whole, or the healthcare workers risking their lives to treat those affected by the coronavirus. Perhaps, no, I know I am showing my bias here with that comparison. But listen, I do want to recognize that both freedom and community as deeply embedded ideals in our American culture. And through the lens of the Jewish tradition today, I also want to explore how we Unitarian Universalists can understand another type of freedom, a spiritual and societal freedom based in community that may be what liberates us all. So this week marked the end of Passover, the Jewish holiday that remembers, celebrates, and complicates the story from the Hebrew Bible's book of Exodus. So the Passover story, in the briefest of retellings, begins as the Israelites are slaves in the land of Egypt. Fearing the Jewish people he has enslaved, an Egyptian pharaoh orders the death of all Israelite male babies at birth. However, Egyptian midwives refuse to comply. In fact, the pharaoh's own daughter takes in an Israelite boy, whom she names Moses. Raised as a prince, Moses eventually recognizes his kinship with the Jewish people, and upon seeing an Israelite slave being beaten, kills an Egyptian taskmaster. Eventually, Moses leads a rebellion with the miraculous assistance from God, from sending plagues to parting the Red Sea, and leads the Israelites out of Egypt. So Moses and his people then wander for 40 years in the desert before they reach their promised land. So the story of this liberation is told each year at a shared Passover Seder, or meal. As being both a religion nerd and by marrying into a Jewish family, I have had the honor of being at many Seders, one of which lasted for 8 hours. Even my husband passed on that one. But I loved it, because the Seder is not simply a meal, but a retelling of the Exodus story. And like much of the Jewish tradition, the story itself has many layers, and the meal has many courses. In particular, freedom and liberation are complicated, not defined as fixed, immovable, or one thing only. Because yes, the Jewish people are freed from physical bondage of slavery, and they are still accountable to, bound to, a community, a shared set of Jewish rules and principles. It is not as if once the shackles were off, once the Red Sea was parted, each of these folks wandered into the desert on their own, saying, I do what I want as an individual. I mean, maybe there were a few that did it, singing Fleetwood Mac's Go Your Own Way, but I'm just not sure how long they would have lasted out there, alone. And yes, I'm thinking again of those protesters in the State House and street this week, demanding that they get free access of movement, even as it affects millions of other lives. That is a kind of freedom, I suppose, but it feels hollow when you think of all that needs to be given up: support, care, community. And when you consider the freedoms that many of the protesting folks have tried to deny others: undocumented folks, women, people who don't look like them. Passover teaches us time and time again that freedom is more complicated than getting to do what I want, when I want. Freedom comes at a price. In Seders each year, folks take a drop of wine from their Seder glasses in memory and mourning for each plague inflicted upon the Egyptians by God, so they may be set free. These plagues, though they led to liberation for the Jewish people, are not taken lightly. There is mourning for locusts and, tragically, the death of the Egyptian firstborn, for plagues. The Jewish tradition does not change the story, though, making it more palatable or making its leader, or God really, look sinless. In fact, our Passover reading today mourns ongoing plagues in our modern context, from the making of war to the subjugation of science, learning, and human discourse. The reading asks us how we might atone for our current plagues so as to become a better community and more spiritually free. Because that, in many modern interpretations of the Passover story, is the role of freedom: to move us toward our own spiritual and societal wholeness, to liberate us from all that is binding us, hate and fear, for example. As Rabbi Susan Schnur writes, Passover is a journey towards wholeness, towards a metaphoric promised land. And if we remember that, and that alone, we will create a Seder each year that is not only deeply meaningful, but de facto different from every other year's. The rabbi often assigns spiritual homework for her Seder table that addresses that year's freedom issues. After September 11th, 2001, for example, she considered the time right before the Egyptians escaped to the desert for 40 years. Imagine that you are Moses, taking leave of a mutilated world to trudge across the desert. Your 40-year plan is to re-socialize a tribe, to create a new, improved version of humanity that will spread crucial societal corrections throughout the land. This tribe will have a bone-deep understanding of why democracy, respect, justice, and compassion are simply the way to go. What item do you, as Moses, need to pack in order to best accomplish this task? What one thing will most help us transform ourselves and one another from being miserable human beings who are enslaving and enslaved, territorial and selfish, into human beings who create lahavdil, a world that is safe and wise and takes care of everybody? So I wish I had been at Rabbi Schnur's very intimate, or probably virtual, Seder table this year. I imagine she and many others that gathered around Seder tables last week considered what liberation looks like in this time of plague and confinement. What it means to be subject to power-mad pharaohs or presidents, and what it means to free yourself from that confinement and then bind yourself to the unknown, to a community based in its own set of rules and responsibilities, wandering in the desert, risking your life to find and build a new home, a new society. A constant in so many of these Passover reflections is that liberation and freedom are intertwined with your and the community's spiritual and moral growth. That there is liberation beyond the physical, and it is interconnected. In that 40 years in the desert, the Israelites were learning and constantly failing at how to grow into a strong Jewish community. It was hard. Moses and God were constantly yelling at them because the Israelites kept returning to false idols, what was comfortable from before, even when it was tied to their own slavery. The journey, as Rabbi Schnur notes, was part of their own moral journey, their freedom in finding their spiritual voice as a Jewish people. And the Israelites as a whole could not begin to reach toward this continuing growth until they were physically liberated. That liberation from slavery was the baseline for their own spiritual and communal flourishing. So taking it to modern context, even before this pandemic, when the economy was thriving, based in a particular set of metrics, there were still that were so many bound in this country. There were undocumented immigrants, another comparison for the Seder table, who came to the United States to find a new homeland, a new life, and were met with detention, isolation, and shaming. Women whose ability to make decisions about their own reproductive health care and bodies was being targeted from our local parishes to the Supreme Court. Poor folks who already lacked essential health care, living paycheck to paycheck as stocks rose and the rich got richer. And then came a virus that has stripped our country and its leaders to its essential, a plague that has caused a moral reckoning, leading us to wonder, who are we as a people, as a country? And despite the unhinged tweets and press conferences of our current president, or the misinformation spread on a national news network, or folks protesting for their individual freedoms over communal health, the majority of us are staying home. The majority of our healthcare workers are risking their lives to care for us. The majority of people have chosen community over individualistic freedom. Churches in financial hardship that are feeding folks each week with precautions, like Bethlehem Lutheran Church over in Central City, please support them. Small businesses that are working to keep their employees paid despite its effect on their bottom line. Activists that continue to meet virtually to plan and work for justice, from voting access to support for the undocumented community. That is liberation too, recognizing that we are all interconnected. Our freedom comes from all of us being seen as having human worth and dignity, that no one's life is disposable, including ours, in an attempt to reopen an economy. And we need not do all of the above at every moment. I get it. There's a lot going on to start to reach for a new way to be in community, even in isolation, and find freedom through community. It can grow in the littlest of ways. So this Wednesday, April 22nd, is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. This time of physical slowdown has meant that a CCUU member, Laura Miller, will preach in next week's sermon. Our planet has been given just a small moment to heal. And many of us have been given the opportunity to witness nature a bit more, from quiet walks to garden contemplation. Let us take this moment so that when we humans come back from physical distancing, we can work just as hard to heal the climate crisis as we are doing for this current crisis, because we are also bound to each other and this earth. And our spiritual liberation can come from this recognition of our interconnectedness. And the small recognition by a few might lead toward change by the many. When the Jewish people recognized their strength as a community, together they were able to move towards liberation, physical and spiritual. This moment in time offers us despite all its pain and hardship, a lens by which to better see ourselves, to more deeply consider who we want to be, and as a society, to not return to normal after the virus, but instead, with all our anxiety, all our joy, our anger, our spiritual contemplation, to work toward a freedom in our society that ensures that we are all cared for. And truly, I do hope that liberation includes all of us, even those Americans who choose at the moment to use intimidation to demand their own individual freedoms. They are scared and vulnerable too. And they are being prodded on by a president, to turn their fear to anger. Because our shared collective liberation is what the powerful, only in title and wealth, truly fear the most. Where citizens are cared for and care for others in a more equitable society. With a government offering health care and basic needs so that our very lives need not be tied to a low-paying job and where we are expendable. Where people are asked to consider the lives and cares and hurts of others as part of their own interconnected struggle, not as some other that doesn't have to do with us. Now, nobody says it's going to be easy. 40 years in a desert is no joke. But I'm thinking that perhaps, years down the line, in a shared meal with family and friends, we, or our future children or grandchildren, might begin to tell our stories of liberation. That it began in 2020, a year most of us want to forget, but now, years later, might commemorate. It was the year that so many of us began to get truly free. Amen. Our benediction today is from Elizabeth Alexander. I know there's something better down the road. We need to find a place where we are safe. We walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain, that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick the glittering edifices they would then keep clean and work inside of. Praise song for struggle, praise song for the day. Praise song for every hand-lettered sign, the figuring it out at the kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself, others by first do no harm or take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love beyond marital, filial, national, love that casts a widening pool of light, love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, anything can be made, any sentence begun. On the brink, on the brim, on the cusp, praise song for walking forward in that light. So this week, may you all continue to walk forward, even in sorrow and sadness. May you know that you are loved, and may you know that you are enough. Until we virtually see each other again, we love you at Community Church Unitarian Universalist.
Let's see if it's on. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Cynthia Ramirez, the Religious Education Director. Good morning. Once again, this is Cynthia Ramirez, the Religious Education Director, and it was a very lovely service. I know watching the news this week was pretty intimidating, seeing all this craziness happen. But, you know, I like to see what is going on. What are the needs of those people? You know, there's just, what is it? We don't know. We feel unsecure here. So it was a great service to think about. Anyways, but I want to share a little story with you, and it's kind of fun, and it's kind of about coming together. It was a story by Jamie Lee Curtis that her son wanted to know about the human race. What are they running for? What's the prize? This type of thing. So it's kind of fun. This very innocent play on words with the child. And so this is a book to show them what does that mean, right? So this is called, Is There Really a Human Race? Is there really a human race? Can you see it? Is it going on now all over the place? When did it start? Who said, ready, set, go? Oh, the people running. Did it start on my birthday? I really must know. The little babies there. Did I warm up and stretch? Did I practice and train? Did I get my own coach? Do I get my own lane? Do I race in the snow? Do I race in a twister? Am I racing my friends? Am I racing my sister? If the race is a relay, is Dad on my team? And his dad? And his dad? You know what I mean. Is the race like a loop or an obstacle course? Am I a junkie? Am I jockey or am I a horse? Is there pushing and shoving to get to the lead? If the race is unfair, will I succeed? Do some of us win? Do some of us lose? Is winning or losing something I choose? Why am I racing? What am I winning? Does all of my running keep the world spinning? If I get off track, when I take the wrong turn, do I make my way back from my mistakes? Do I learn? Like this one has a maze in it. Is it a sprint? Oops, sorry about the glare. Is it a sprint? A dash to the end? Am I aware of the time that I spend? And why do I do it, this zillion-yard dash? If we don't help each other, we are all going to crash. Sometimes it's better not to go fast. There are beautiful sights to see when we're last. Shouldn't it be that you just try your best? And that's more important than beating the rest. Shouldn't it be looking back at the end that you judge your own race by the help that you lend? So take what's inside you and make big choices. And for those who can't speak for themselves, use bold voices. A little little people. And make friends and love well. Add art to this place, and make the world better for the whole human race. The end. I like that story. It's very poignant for today. You know, like I know some children and even adults are getting what's going on, and so it's good to let's focus. You know, what's happening here. So today, what I'm going to do with you guys is one of the RE directors from North Shore, Erica Lee. Did I'm going to send that out to you. There's a lesson that we're going to do, and it's on courage. And so one of the things was, let's talk a little bit about what courage is. So basically, courage, when you think of courage or bravery, you think of this hero, this strong person and everything. But most of the time, courage, well, its definition here is the ability to do something that frightens one. And you do it anyways, right? Also, the strength in the face of pain and grief. So these are ordinary people doing extraordinary things in extraordinary times. So it's very important. We all have that. We all have that strength here. So so that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to make courage badges. So if you think of the cowardly lion, right? He was scared of everything, but he got his courage badge because he was frightened of everything, but he helped his friends in times of need. And that's what it's about. You know, people stepping up, you know, even though we're frightened, but we do it because it's the right thing. We want to help people. So that's when I think of all the doctors, I think of all the nurses, I think of all the grocery people. You know, they're going there, you know, they don't know what the next day is going to bring, but they do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. So this is, well, we want to think about what we can do. So today, what we're going to do is courage badges. Now, you can start thinking about what courage means. You know, what is that? You know, what would be signs and symbols of courage? Of course, you know, I have, you know, Starfleet badge. It's a Starfleet command badge, or, the badge here. So, and this has, if you notice, this one is kind of cool. Most badges are circular, but this one has this, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that a pentagon? No, 6-sided. Septagon? Look it up. Okay. So anyways, but this one has the signs and symbols of Starfleet, you know, but you put it on. That's the badge. Also, I made, well, what makes me strong, you know, what gets me through these times and everything. And I made a UU badge. I don't know if y'all can see it. Let me get it. There it is. Let me get it straight for you. Of course, you know, had to throw in some Star Trek there. But I made my chalice with the emblem, you know, fancy emblem of Starfleet there. You can see the chalice, you can see the UU. But around the edges, I put what makes me strong and what gets me through are the 7 principles. And I have an inherent worth, compassion, justice, acceptance, search for truth and meaning, and the independent web of life. So that's mine. You can do whatever you want, and I'm going to put mine on because I can. I put just a little sticky thing on the back, or you can make them as fancy as you want. And let me see. Okay, let's see. There, I'm going to wear my UU badge. So, and this is what keeps me strength. What you can do is how I make mine. I just got like a round piece, or you can make it any shape you want. You saw that this was like the 6-sided shape. This is like cardstock, or you can get any poster, anything that's going to be a little stiffer, or you can do it with fabric. That's always fabulous. But this is just a little round thing. Of course, I have 10 million, you know, Star Trek badges, or stickers, right? This is the badge. It's a communication, right? Badge. Anything might live well and prosper. You know, you have all kinds of things you can do. You can use, think about the centerpiece, what your sign and symbol is going to be. Think about, you can give it to, people who are doing courageous things, your parents, you can have your own little badge like mine to keep me, what is important to me. And, I'm keeping, my UU faith here, and trying to be compassionate, trying to, see, in the eyes of another that I wouldn't want to, but not want to, but you know what I mean. But, it also makes you see emotions, so you can see within too. So you can think about, what nurses need courage badges, right? I mean, doctors need. So, we can even make these for someone or give it to people, these courage badges. What be a symbol for you? So you can use markers, you can use watercolors, whatever you want. Or if you have just think about signs and symbols. That's kind of cool. What you think courage would be. I think they're really neat. Kind of when I was doing this, I was feeling pretty good, so it also, I can look at this and say, yes, I can do this. We can do this together, right? Because I have the strength within me to do this. Even though I'm an ordinary person, I can do extraordinary things in times of sorrow, grief, and scary times. So, and this is what gets you going. And if you have this badge, I can do this. I can really do this and get this through it. So I'm very excited to see what your badges will look like. And you can give them away too, to anybody that you want. So anyways, well, that's what I have today. And I hope to, why don't you send me some of your badges? I'll be very excited to see some of these badges. I'm very excited with my badge. I'm going to look at it all day. But I'm kind of liking the Star Trek chalice thing going on. So anyways, well, we do have the Space Force for the thing. I'll have to design me a badge for that too. So anyways, so I will see you next week. Hopefully I'll be able to do some sort of thing during the week with y'all. I'm going to contact you guys and see if you want to do that. Maybe just sit down and talk or do some sort of craft together. So I'll be contacting people. And you have a great week. And I will hope to see, I'm going to be doing it different next time. I'm going to be in the service doing the story. And probably the craft won't be done, but probably during the week, I'll probably do the craft through Zoom or something. So if y'all have any questions, if there's kids want to talk to me or anything, we'll see about maybe we can do a Zoom thing and just have everybody come together. I'm sure they're missing some of the people, some of the kids. So maybe we can get them together sometime. And I will contact you either today or tomorrow and see what's best for everybody. All right. So y'all have a good week. I'm really liking my badge a lot, but I will see you next week, and have a good week and hang in there. Do something creative, make something beautiful next week, just to get your mind off of this. And you'll be amazed what you can do with everything. I see people creating things. So have a good one, and I will see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.